even doesn't have to be called meditation. It's really just a space of being. Because even meditation sounds like there's some kind of agenda, some kind of result that you're trying to achieve.
I'm grateful for, just pushing the threshold, because while I was in there too, I was thinking, oh, this is different, because nothing would come back out. And this morning I had a choice to go meditate or go do yoga, so I chose to meditate. And as I was sitting there, I was thinking, I really like meditating. And then, but I didn't know then, but this is long. There was a part of me thinking, wow, I wonder if you need to go this long. It's fine, I'm enjoying myself anyway. And I just kind of settled into it. And then I went into the thought of, well, when are people just going to open their eyes automatically? And then I think, well, this is different. I just felt like it was different from the last time I was here. And the breath was very good because, there's this breathing in, breathe out when you talk about agenda. Oftentimes in gatherings like this is 3 times. So when you kept doing it, I'm thinking, yeah, that's Brian, he's different. Because I'm not, it's going to stop it through. He's like, oh no, we're still going. Okay, we'll just keep breathing in and out. But I really appreciate it.
I had a little internal, my ego is a little more pissy. The ego was just popping up, kind of like, what the hell, How long is this going to be? Okay. Keep breathing, stay awake. Get alive. Wake up. Then you got me good with the breathing. We're breathing about the 4th, 5th time. I'm like, okay. He's being one of those Zen masters. All right, let go of the ego, I have a very pissy ego. But I appreciate it, because I've been learning to appreciate when that conditioned type of thinking is exposed, and allowing it, feeling it, letting go and aligning through it and all that stuff. So it was a quite unexpected exercise. Yes. I didn't expect that to come up. It was good.
I think for me, the yoga kind of played into it because I kept thinking the slouching, because when I was breathing, I was slouching, and then when I relaxed into it, it was like limitless. Limited. And I kept thinking that. Like when I first started the breathing, I was like this, and then I relaxed, and it was like, oh yeah, it all opens up. So that was kind of good with that.
Yeah, I thought the yoga thing played into it too, when you were saying don't think about what's coming next.
Yeah.
Just focus on what you're doing now, because when it was getting longer, I was just focus on this moment.
Yeah, once I relaxed, I almost like fell asleep, and I kind of like got into that. I think I almost actually started to have a dream. I was like, I had this vision of like this little kid at a window, and I was like, why is that kid at the window? And then I came back to it, so maybe it's needed that.
So interesting for the sharing. What I'm getting from it is, because I know when I was meditating, it felt real good. It was, I don't even want to say good. It just felt whatever it was. And I had those moments of different thoughts. But from the sharing, what I'm left with is, why it's interesting where it's something that felt so good and I'm waiting for it to end. It's like, why is it going on so long? And it's like the mindset, we got to do something. Okay, that's good. Get up. That conditioning of we have to breathe in and out, deep breath 3 times, and that's it. Let's move on to the next bit. Just something that came up for me.
I was kind of feeling like the opposite, maybe it's because I got here later. I just wanted it to just keep going. It felt so good. And I was starting to get downloads and stuff, then. So that was nice.
Yeah, the more you get into the quiet your mind, because you have all this surface stuff that's just, things that aren't so important that the mind is giving attention to. But then you quiet down, and then what you call the downloads, the stuff that's just this creative genius stuff that's not you. You can't make it happen. You can't put effort into it. But when your mind is quiet, then those things, come through. God, Spirit, you're able to listen. The channel is quiet for that signal to come through. But it takes a little while to get into that space, and it really takes usually getting through that. It's almost like I'm getting this metaphor of like a marathon runner.
Oh, we getting a download. Collective download.
What is that?
That's what I thought. It's when
Anyway, so you're running a marathon, which I haven't done, but just my understanding of it is you're running and you hit kind of a wall, and you want to stop, you want to quit, you want to give up. But if you keep going, you go past that point, you hit what they call the runner's high, and there's this like ecstatic, exalted space that you go into. So I think that's the way the meditation can be, is there's that space of that resistance of your familiar comfort zone, of the egoic comfort zone. And if you stay with it and you go past that point, then you're just in the runner's high. And the downloads are available. And also, I'm able to, the other day was speaking to, it feels like generally like the way we're conditioned, we're searching to be entertained, and it's like we need such a strong sensory input to be entertained. So like, the movies and the video games is just increasingly violent. Just like really, when it has to become more and more horrific violence. And I think it's like people, it has to be so strong just to be in the moment. There's this movie, Fight Club, I think a lot of you are familiar with. And it was really a brilliant movie. I went to it in the opening night in the theater, and I thought it was like some dumb action movie I was being dragged to, and I was like, all right, I'll just sit through this. Brad Pitt, oh God, And I sat down like the first time. I'm like, oh my God, this movie's about enlightenment. This movie's amazing, But these guys, really, what's happening is they're trying to find a way to be in the moment. They're in this corporate world and just going through the routines and going through the motions, and they're trying to find a way to be in the now. So how do you be in the now? Well, if somebody could potentially punch you in the face, that's going to bring you in the now, like, pretty quick.
Yeah.
So they use that as a practice, essentially, to be in the now, to be in this, to find and discover this enlightened consciousness. So, but then as we become more refined, we don't have to be punching each other in the face. We can pay attention to more of the subtleties of the moment. There's awareness of what's here that's more the word would be not as strong, more soft subtleties that are in the moment. So you can be sitting in silence, and the consciousness is like a stream of consciousness going by, like a river of consciousness. and it's actually really entertaining, right? You don't need this tremendous, like, 100,000 people in a concert or something, you know, just like watching this, like, these thoughts and feelings and sensations floating across. And really, to be in an unconditional space of unconditional awareness, unconditioned awareness, so it's really to be in a state of unconditional love. So Byron Katie has this phrase, loving what is. So meditation is really the practice of being in love with what is. Right? And if you can be in love with what is, then you're a liberated, spiritually liberated being. Right? Because you can be in love with what is, then you don't need to change what is. But paradoxically, if you can be in love with what is tends to change. Because the layers of resistance open and relax and open up into something new, deeper layer level. So this space is really just being able to be with what is, being in love with what is, being in an unconditional relationship with the moment. And then when that resistance arises, can you notice that and be in love with that? So just like an open field of awareness to whatever's arising. So John mentioned the bubbles in the bathtub. I think he saw one of my videos. So there's a bathtub with water, big giant bathtub, and that this water is you, like this, like your awareness, just like pure infinite awareness. There's actually, a bathtub has a container, but your awareness doesn't have any container. So it's just infinite awareness. And then out of this infinite awareness, these bubbles pop up and then come back in your life. And these bubbles are like thoughts, you know, thoughts and feelings and sensory perceptions and experiences. And the awareness is what all of this is arising out of, all of the content and coming back into, but it doesn't affect the awareness. The awareness is where the sense of liberation and love and inner peace and freedom of resting in the essence of yourself is. So there's this rising and falling back into that doesn't touch or affect the awareness that is you. Well, we've lost, generally speaking, we lose awareness of awareness itself. We lose awareness of ourself. And we get lost in the content. And then we become attached and identified with the content as ourself. And this is the cause of great suffering, because the bubbles are just temporary. They're just boop, boop, just pop, pop, pop. And then we think, oh, this bubble's me. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna pop. And so this this incredible anxiety arises when you become attached and identified to the bubbles, because the bubbles don't last. The only thing that lasts is the awareness of which they're arising and falling out into. And the bubbles can be a lot of different things, but primarily the primary bubble is the sense of the story of yourself. So we become attached and identified with the story of ourself, which we can call the ego. So when you think that that's who you really are, then that's the recipe for suffering. Because we want to find some sense of something that's steady, something that's permanent. But we're looking in places that are impermanent. So what's impermanent? Anything that you see is impermanent, first of all. Anything that you hear is impermanent. Second of all, anything that you can touch, anything in the realm of the senses is impermanent. Every thought is impermanent. Every feeling is impermanent. Every relationship is impermanent. Every job, every 501k, all of this stuff is impermanent, you know? So we're looking for some sense of security in things that are inherently impermanent. And then there's this underlying kind of anxiety and tension that sits underneath the surface. And then there's the opportunity through generally suffering or pain is just kind of the universe, intelligence kind of guiding that you're off course. You know, so through that movement, we can bring awareness to this true essence of who and what we are that transcends the content and also includes the content. So this is an important point because traditionally most of the religious and spiritual teachings, so you are spirit, you are not your body, you are not your mind, you are not this world, you are not your sexual desires, you're not, all these things are basically the cause of sin. You know, to get caught in them are the cause of sin, they're the cause of suffering. The world is an illusion and it must be, you know, kind of gotten done away with to become spirit. But when we recognize and realize that God is all there is, that there is no sense of separation, that there's only one, then there's no need to push anything away. There's not even a separate you to push anything away. There's just this one infinite light, which is ever present and here now and always. And there's an opening to this essence. So you recognize yourself as the awareness of which all the content arises and falls back into, and you also recognize yourself as all the content as well. And this is how you open up to being able to love the world and love all the parts of yourself. And this is where it gets interesting, because this awareness is unchanging. This awareness, this water in the bathtub, is ever present and unchanging. We call it the absolute. Has no content. Then there's the content, which is always changing and never the same. Every moment it appears in a unique way, never to appear again in that same exact way. So all these different experiences, all these different reflections, all these different people are different expressions, they're different bubbles, you know, of the water. It's all water, but there's all these different bubbles. And they're all expressions of this one self, which is you. So what's so powerful about, you know, relationships is there's that person like, oh, why does this person trigger me? There's something about their like personality or the way they talk or the way they like move or something. I just don't, you know, I don't. And like there's something that they're just, whatever we're noticing or resistance to is some aspect of ourself in the big sense of self that is integrated to be loved and to be appreciated and honored and acknowledged. So it's such a wonderful space of growth to be in the world of form and have all these different experiences and types of people and types of personalities, and they're all different aspects of ourselves. You know, so you can see this pretty easily, like when you get to know somebody and there's a certain kind of person they don't like, you know. So obviously, if it's a certain kind of person you don't like, then there's this aspect of yourself that is bringing out and reflecting that is ready to be loved and embraced. And then that kind of person, when you embrace that and love that part of yourself, isn't going to trigger you, right? They're just going to be, oh, there's that kind of person. Oh yeah, I love that part of myself too, right? So there's kind of this lightness of being around that. Anybody have any questions or comments at this moment?
I love the way you explain that, because I've always heard that when someone triggers your buttons, it's a part of yourself you don't like very much.
Mm-hmm.
But I love turning that around to say, no, it's actually a part that you need to integrate and to learn to love, versus something that you need to fix about yourself, which is what you often hear when you hear that kind of an analogy. Could you go deeper on that? So, I'll use an example, which might be helpful. I just actually wrote some. So I have some. I got the work to do. But there are certain people or certain personality types that will trigger your buttons. You know, they do things that just irritate you. This particular individual is very, very disrespectful about other people's time. That's the way that I see it. The reality is he's just very aware of what he needs in the moment and what he needs, and whether that has anything to do with you or not is a different issue. But he's going to do what he needs for himself, regardless of how it impacts others. But the way that I was sort of processing that is, I'm like, okay, well, there's a part of me that wants to be able to just disrespect everybody else and do my own thing. And therefore, that's why when he does that, it makes me angry, is because I believe that he is, I take it personally, and I say, okay, well, why does he have the ability to do that and the rest of us can't? The rest of us have to live within some parameters. How can he be so free to do whatever he needs to in the moment, regardless of how it impacts others? And there's a piece of me that would love to be able to do that. So I look at that and I go, oh, well, I don't like that about myself, but I want to feel that way. And I see it in him, it's a trigger, it's a hot button.
So that's exactly how it works.
So
Yeah.
so you, to justify that you don't take care of what you need to take care of, you get pissed off at him? Is that?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool.
But it's because he's actually doing something that I wish I could do for myself. And so, but I get mad at him because he's doing it. Because I created another story. But we create stories. So I'm creating a story about his intention, which is not accurate. And his intention is to be disrespectful,
Right.
which is not his intention. His intention is just to do what he wants to do for himself.
Okay, that's
Yeah. We create those stories.
So another example is, I know a woman that she's really triggered by women that have photographed themselves in like sexy ways, or like get photographed and, you know, it's sexy, beautiful. So it's very, and I noticed like this pattern, you know. I'm like, why is she so like? What's the big deal, you know? Why is she so? Then I realized, oh, like she wishes she could be like that, or she wants to be like that, and she's like exactly what you're saying in the same way. And you notice that there's a pattern that people like. It's if you don't like care for something, or it's not your cup of tea, that's one thing. But when you have this strong reaction to it, you know, like kind of like hatred sort of energy, then something's up inside you at that point. So it doesn't mean like, oh, I prefer this instead of that. We all have our preferences of ice cream or types of photography we like, but when it comes to like a strong reaction, it's like, yeah, it's like something that a part of ourselves that we're repressing, and so then when we see it outside of ourselves and other people, we're gonna fight it.
And you can usually identify it through overreaction. So if you're overreacting to something, like someone's doing something and you're just emotionally you're overreacting to it negatively, that's usually a good indication that there's something inside of you that needs to be integrated and loved, not fixed.
Yeah.
And I hate it. I hate that mirror. The mirror comes up and they're right in your life, you know, and it's like, oh, I don't like you. And then it's just about us. It's just about
And it'll
us.
keep coming back.
Hate that
to you
mirror,
over and over
God.
again until you
Yeah.
integrate
In different
Yeah.
forms.
different people.
So how does it connect to, I'm sure there's a relation, I'm just unclear, I can't see it right now at the moment. How does it relate to, like past traumas, for example, or issues where someone has held on to that energy and it gets triggered, you know, by, somehow it's related to what you're talking about, but I can't see the connection exactly. Like, on the energetic level, like the lady, the example you gave, or closer to home, yours is more easy.
Well, I think they're both,
Speak to.
yeah.
Is there-
So,
can you
so
see-
let's say like this one I'm talking about, her dad, maybe he was like, don't dress like a slut or something like that.
Okay.
She's like, oh, you know, if I do a certain way, I won't be like, that's wrong, I won't be loved, or, so that's like in her then. So then it's projecting out.
Yeah,
you know.
so there's some judgment
Yeah.
aspect she's holding on to about
Mhm.
that desire.
Yeah.
And so since she's been repressing it, when she sees it in somebody else, she has a reaction.
Yeah.
That makes sense, okay.
I like how you said the desire, because what was a shift, and I'm looking at that, because in the spiritual community, that whole thing, what you don't like in somebody else is in you. I'm not like that. I mean, that's like common. And what I found, you know, a sort of shift for it is what I see is kind of like what you said. It's like, if someone is doing something that I don't like, and I'm judging them and criticizing them, what I get to see is how I am judging myself, or how I would judge myself if I was doing what they were doing. How I would judge myself if I'm late or don't care about other people's time, whatever anybody wants to call it. So rather than not care about other people's time, even though I'm just using that analogy, rather than do that, I try and rush and get ready and not get everything done. But if someone else does it, my judgment that I will project onto myself will be projected onto somebody else. So when there's something about somebody else that I don't like, what comes out energetically, verbally, are the words that I would say to myself if I was doing it. And that's why it's important when we love what is. You know, using the analogy of the mirror. I can't imagine any one of us here going in the mirror and you see a picture of yourself and you're frowning. And we're trying to fix the frown on the mirror. No, I got to smile in order to see the smile on the mirror. So that mirror reflection of recognizing whenever there's a judgment, maybe something I want to do or can't do, or maybe something that happened when I was a child and I've been told not to do it. If I'm judging other people that is wrong, they shouldn't do it, why you treat me like that, it's a loud voice for me to see, oh, look how you're judging yourself. And that's no joke. Because life gives us a lot of opportunity to see that you ain't done yet. Yeah.
What I wanted to say about your experience, John, is one thing that as I've gone through this transformation, is how much shame was in my, like, being raised, that, you know, and a lot of it had to do around sex, and, you know, I was raised with a ton of it. It became so innate in my person that it wasn't until I faced it, whether it wasn't as something as simple as that, but maybe a jealousy or a desire or need or something, but it wasn't until I, you know, faced it that I, you know, determined that shame was part of, you know, my upbringing, which was really shocking because, you know, I had a good upbringing, I had good parents, I wasn't abused, you know, but I mean, there was a lot of shame around that. And then it's funny, as I've processed through it, and now it's like I'm standing face to face with my mother, and, you know, she's still raising me with shame. And as I go, you know, as I've started to date or, you know, enter this new world, and you know, she's still trying to keep me in that place, which is really funny because that's her, you know, her shame or her desires, when in essence, you know, she would like to have that in her life. So it's funny because I mean, I've really reflected that back to her and like, you know, Mom, it's like, I know that you want A, B, and C, so stop trying to deny me what I know you want.
That's right.
Ooh, gotcha.
That's totally right.
It's just like, oh, you know, it's just like, I'm 47 years old, stop. you know? It's like, yeah, but it's been, yeah, but I was her reflection, but in essence, you know, I had to stand and stare it down to figure it out, because I had no idea how deep it went. So yeah, that shame. But one thing I wanted to ask you is intolerance of injustice.
Yeah.
I've experienced, I mean, everybody's experienced on some level in your lives, but when you see something in somebody that is intolerable, how do you, I mean, there's gotta be, because like somebody makes me really angry because of his cruelty to other people, you know, that, how would you, what is the, I mean, is that the universe placing you in their path to maybe reflect to them what, you know, and try to help change them or whatever, you know, whatever language you want to use, but like I have a boss who's very abusive and systematically cruel, and I've been placed in front of him many times, and I just wonder, what is the lesson for me in that I'm placed in front of this type of person repetitively?
Well, there's a I think you're pointing at something that's a really important, like kind of next level here. So, loving what is, embracing what is, you know, just being in a space of, people sometimes use the word acceptance, in a space of acceptance with what is. And then what if somebody does something that you find really harmful, you know, to other people, to yourself, to themselves? Would you just, I love that, you know, I just accept that, or do you respond to it? So it can come across like initially like there's a teaching. The teaching is just don't respond to anything, don't try to like take action upon anything. But it's actually not the case. I actually think that you can be more effective in the world. You can make more of a positive difference in the world, coming from this space of really what we're talking about is really being present, being in the moment. So being in the moment, you are able to embrace what's happening without resistance to it. So a really like simple example that I give a lot is if you're driving and you get a flat tire, and you don't want to accept the fact that you have a flat tire. So you're like kicking the car and swearing and screaming and yelling at people and shouting, and then you're tired out and you're like, oh, there's still a flat tire and you're still on the side of the road, you know. But if you acknowledge, oh, I have a flat tire, you know, I fully accept the fact that I have a flat tire and that's what's happening, then all kinds of possibilities of how to address that open up. And a lot of times opportunities open up that you wouldn't have had, you know, because there is I think it was in the small group last night, someone was talking about like this desire to really be in the flow of the divine, of life. And when you're in a space of just really embracing, loving what is, accepting what is, then you're in that flow and opportunities arise. So, you know, maybe someone stops and offers you help, and it's the form of a new relationship, and you become married, and there's children, and there's all kinds of things that happen when we just like trust the moment and respond to it instead of thinking we know better how it's supposed to be and being in the space of resistance to it. So if it's like a stronger example of like, you know, let's say you see someone abusing a child or something, it's totally the natural instinct maybe to respond in whatever way you're called to respond, and you follow that, you know. So it's not a way of like denying what's happening. It's actually really feeling fully what's happening and responding to it. And when it's over, then you let it go and move on to what's in the next moment, right? So it's being fully available to respond to each moment, wholly, fully, and completely. And also, there's a space of compassion that's available in a way that it wasn't available before. So we talked about that last night in small group circle too. There's just this sense of being able to feel. So I remember the story of this spiritual teacher in India, and he saw a man, an old man. He's just like going for a walk, and he saw an old man hitting a young boy with a stick on the back in the street. And he stopped and he took it in, and he said he couldn't tell who was in more pain, the boy or the older man, you know. So being able to like feel from that place, because people who are acting out in ways that cause violence, they're an incredible sense of pain inside to be responding, to be acting out in that way. But what we're really, you know, getting to the root of is how to transcend suffering. Right? So if you can be in a space where you can transcend the suffering in yourself, that's the greatest light you could ever be to the world. And then you're offering that every moment. And inviting people into that space together.
I want to transcend suffering.
Well, that's what we're exploring right now.
Amen.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in exploring, like, you know, directly right now, is how do we transcend suffering?
I want to just say something quick, because as I was listening, I was thinking oftentimes when we hear loving something, loving what is, accept what is, I find that people kind of think like, you just like, I'm loving it, I don't like it, but I'm just going to love it. But what you said, the distinction is we become more available to how to deal with it. So it becomes more available to how to deal with it. That example of, I wasn't sure who was more in pain, rather than that old man is mean, and now there's more judgment on top of judgment. And if we're judging somebody what they're doing, and we add more judgment into it, there's more separation. We still do what we need to do, but however, when we accept it, it's a different way. It's a sense of opening, a spaciousness within ourselves where we can receive the guidance, receive the right action, inspire thoughts. Like, this is what you do in this situation. Where, to use your boss as an example, you know, in that space of availability, you might say something to him or ask him a question, because you're not judging what he's doing. You know it's not acceptable, but there's a spaciousness within you, this place of love, where you ask him a question and you can go, I've never thought of it that way. And boy, moments when people have been doing something all their lives and we ask them a question and they get to go, I didn't even think about it. There's a story of cultural diversity that I was watching, and the facilitator, the exercise was people supposed to go in a group and talk about what they received as children about other culture. And then they asked, when they were going to share their stories, they asked everybody, people share their story, and they went over to this white guy and they said, so what conditioning did you get when you were growing up? He said, none. He said, we didn't have no prejudice. Well, there were black people, but we didn't allow them in our town. So and that's what happened. They said everybody just bust out laughing. And then in that moment where everybody bust out laughing, he saw something that he never saw. They said he started crying. He said, oh my God, I have hurt people without knowing, because I thought I didn't have any prejudice. But he didn't know. He said, no, I didn't have to have prejudice. We didn't allow black people in our town. And in that moment, he just started, we tell the stories of people that he had jerked, people who was hurt, just because of what he didn't even know he didn't know. And, you know, we're all on a journey. And so that's acceptance, that love in what is, we talk about the love of God, where everybody's accepted. That's it. It doesn't mean the wrong is saying, oh, you're doing wrong. That's okay, but I still love you. But being able to receive guidance from a broader perspective, to be able to speak to it. And he ended up setting us all free. I mean, because when we get to have a conversation with somebody, and they say, oh, I've never thought about it before. We both know.
And when you label someone for a deed that they have done, then that really alleviates any way of there being reconciliation. And so I like what Tenzin, the Tibetan Buddhist monk who comes here, said. He said that was an energy bundle It doesn't matter what that person did, just an energy bundle. He doesn't take a lot of offense at what other people are doing, so that the next time you're with them, you have a clean slate. You're not letting that deed go on for eternity, so that you just totally shut that person off. You pretty much crucified them in your way of thinking. So that really helped me a lot, because I used to really like to hold grudges. And I'd see that person, just something would arise in me. And now just to know that we're constantly changing, we're ever new. And who knows, maybe he would have had some kind of experience that transformed him into something else. And we're still seeing them in that old way.
I totally do that. I totally resent and hold them
Yeah,
accountable.
and it's really just killing you.
Right.
It's not doing that much to the other person.
Yeah.
So I think labeling, and we've all been conditioned to do that.
It's
We
self-protection, like you're protecting yourself from that person. It's totally what you should do, Why would you let that continue to hurt you?
There's a line in my book that says something along the lines of, when you forgive, the one who benefits the most is you. So there's like a lightness that opens up, So we think that we're hurting other people, and maybe to some degree we are, but we're really primarily hurting ourselves. And that's kind of the short route to, there's all these different people. So trying to like figure out how to love all these different people is like endless. It's kind of an exhausting affair. But if you realize what I was pointing to earlier, that all these people are just aspects of yourself. So if you can really fully come to love yourself, then that takes care of everything else. Because the whole universe lies inside you,
If you just be love. Just be love. I had a friend who became almost like a sister to me, and then she turned on me, and I didn't know why, and it hurt deeply, because, it was like I was on a quest, like, give me a reason. What did I do? And I still, to this day, after it's been maybe 3 years, and I still to this day don't know what I did. And she won't say what I did, and she won't, but then I started thinking, why is it that I have to have done something? But, I didn't do anything. But if you take yourself kind of, no matter how close that person is, mother, father, sister, brother, doesn't matter. If you take yourself kind of like out that situation and then look at it, it's like I started realizing, I had all the feelings, the resentment, the anger, the why and what, you have all the emotions, all that. And then it was killing me. I was drowning in it. It was just making me sick. And I said, okay, I can't have this around me. I can't do this. So I kind of cut myself off from all of it and tried confronting her through other people, because she even blocked me on Facebook, So she told somebody else, she said that she wouldn't. I said, look, I still love her. I forgive her. I love her. I don't know what I did. And she told the person, just tell her to keep in her own space. And she can be, if we're all in the same place, that's fine, but just stay away from me and keep in your, so don't confront me and don't come by me. So I respected that. And to this day, I'll see her and I'll look right at her and I'll smile, but she's, and it's just funny how it all has transpired, because someone will be taking pictures and she'll come up and be right there and we're in the same picture together, but she will not speak to me and will not say a word to me. But I've stayed true to myself in being loved, because it's like, and the person that told me that she said that, I said, will you tell her that I still love her like a sister, and I'm here, and I will always be here if she ever needs me for once, tell me what the heck I did. So in that, stepping away from it and remaining, I could have kept going in this turbulence. I could have kept going in this, you know, like, yuck. But I just remained being love. And I'm here if she ever decides that she wants back in, I'm there. And that's all I could do was to keep myself, you know, from all these negative emotions and all this negativeness, or trying to figure it out, or asking why. And when I did that, I kind of said, you know what, this is not about me, this is about her. Because if I am being love and she can't accept love, it's something that's happened to her in her past or whatever, and so she's seeing that in me and she can't face it yet.
So what you're
one day
speaking
she'll
to
face it.
is really the space of empowerment. So the space of love actually doesn't require anyone else's approval.
Exactly.
Like, you know, it's a really interesting thing. Is like, I don't need your approval to love you.
Exactly.
You know, you actually can't stop me from loving you,
Exactly.
no matter what you do.
Yeah. Unconditional
Right.
love, and you know, so I still believe that she'll come around one day, and like whatever demons she needs to face, she's gonna face them, and then she's gonna be like, wow, you know, you're still there.
Mm-hmm.
It might be 10 years from now. It doesn't matter. I'm not putting a limit. I'm just being love, and I'll be there if ever she decides she wants to be my friend. If she never faces what's going on and what's happening within herself, then I'll still love her. You know? I'll still be there. So it's just a different way of looking at, like, you know, how we were saying more about ourselves. You know, if that makes me angry, or that makes me mad, but it's what I'm trying to convey is that looking at it from their point of view towards you, you know, looking at it from where they're at. It might not be something that's totally bad about you. It might be something that's very good about you.
Oh yeah, for
that
sure.
They just can't, you know.
That's another huge one.
Yeah, why do we always assume it's the bad thing?
Yeah.
Exactly. I do that every
No, actually, a lot of times, this not necessarily maybe in your case, but a lot of times when people stop talking to you, a lot of times it's because they're like in love with you, or it's not because they don't like you, it's because they like you a lot. So there's that one too, and especially when it's like weird and peculiar and strange, and so. But the bottom line is, it doesn't really matter what the reason is. You can drive yourself kind of wacky trying to figure out the rationale behind other people and their motives. Just, are you in a state of love, you know, in yourself, and realizing it's not dependent upon the other.
I want to ask something. It's like, if everything is God, then, you know, it's like, isn't it God-given to have anger?
Yeah. There's your answer.
There we go. Because it's like, yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you. I mean, because, yeah, okay, so we have these emotions, and, you know, Source gave them to us. So God gave us anger so we would know when somebody's stepping on our toes, like, you know. So why do we want to avoid it so much? Like, it's like,
yeah, that's a great question.
oh, you know, we just have to be in zen and love, but I think it is love when I'm like, you're hurting my kid? No, that's not okay, you know, or, you know, and we can get to the love, but it's like, I think in order for me to get to the love, I gotta feel, I gotta get in here and feel the feelings, not skip them.
It's not the anger, it's what you do with the anger. You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
pull out a gun and you're going to shoot them, you know. Break their jaws.
You broke my toe, man. I'm angry, it's all God.
It is fun. Our society does, I mean, I face that all because I everybody's like, you know, you need to not be angry. You need to not lash out. You need to, and it's like, but I am angry. And it's like, you know, I like somebody like who can really, like my mom and we can scrap. You know, we can, and it's never like, you know, I hate you or anything, but we can have a good, heated argument. And at the end, like, want to go see a movie? Yeah. All right. You know, and it's a great release of stress. And, you know, I used to drive my ex-husband crazy that my mom, who could just go to town. But that was one of the main reasons, and list of reasons why I left my husband, but that was that he could not express anger. And if he ever did, it was over the top and hurt me. I don't understand the society's, you know, desire to bottle that, like what you're asking. What, you know, why are we so afraid of healthily expressing anger? Yes, we don't want to bring a gun to school and shoot everybody, but maybe if we embraced that emotion a little better, then we wouldn't have some of this crazy meltdown stuff. Like, it's okay, you know, like all the time when I work, Ashley, don't lose your temper with him. And I'm like, but he, you know, why not? Why can't he and I have a little fight over here in the corner, and that might help us? So what, I know you said anger is God, but like what? But I mean, how can we as a society?
Well, anger also usually comes from a space of disempowerment. So you're angry at someone else because it feels like they're like kind of dominating you, or they're manipulating you, or they're overpowering you in some way. So then that's a natural response. But there's also another level of realizing they don't have power. You know?
Or they're reflecting you. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, like, you know, to
Exactly.
actually, you know, battle that around for a minute.
Exactly.
There might be some enlightenment at the end.
Exactly. So coming in a space of empowerment in yourself, but that can be, like Donna's saying, that could be a step toward that awakening. And then I think what Amy said is valid too. Like, you have the feeling, and then how do you utilize? You could do something that's, you know, very destructive that you'll, you know, not be happy that you did, or you can do something that's that is constructive and use that in a way that's constructive. But that takes a certain level of consciousness, a certain level of awareness, a certain level of presence. Right. So I think that's the key. That's the key. If you're just in a reactive space, an unconscious reactive space, or are you in a conscious creative space? Right?
One of the things that I've actually used, I can't remember where I read this, but it's called riding the emotional wave. So it's whatever that emotion is that's coming up, you don't want to suppress it, right? Because that's where you end up with these issues. Yeah, you make yourself sick, or and then it ends up bottled up, etc. But when you feel that emotion to come up, and literally, like, I'll picture myself on a surfboard with the wave. You let the wave go. You let it flow through and follow its natural course. Of course, whether it's positive, whether it's anger, whether it's sadness, whether it's grief, whatever it is, whatever that natural wave is, you let it go out to its fruition. Because then, as it comes down on the beach, essentially, that's where you get your learning of what was either underneath it, or what you were meant to get from it, or even what you need to do with it now. But literally saying, okay, it's all right, I'm going to ride the surfboard.
So it's like my girls, I'm like, I'm about to get angry. I was like, here we go. Yeah, I mean, just allowing yourself to feel that instead of cutting it off. I mean, that's
Right.
that whole, like, you know, that depression is just anger repressed. And I mean, I think that's very much the case, that when you repress something and don't healthily work it through, that's when it becomes something ugly.
But can you allow it and not act from it?
Yes.
You know, because
That's what I was
because if you're acting from a place of anger, then typically you look back and you're like, okay, probably wasn't what I really wanted to say or wanted to do, you know. So where you said, when resistance arises, can you be in love with that? I thought that was really fast. So when it arises, be with it, allow it, but maybe not act from that place, because you're not really clear. You're caught up in the emotions of the moment, right? It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it, but you know, if you act from that, you may not do what you would really want to do.
And I asked myself, have I reached the shore yet before I act? That's one of the things I ask myself before I do any sort of action or reaction on that emotional wave. I actually say, have I reached the shore yet? Because until I reach the shore, I'm not going to do anything with it, because I never read it.
Right.
And the meditation space is a great place to practice, so to speak. So you can notice that resistance arise And then that's the space to be with the resistance, to be in love with the resistance. And a lot of times what happens is resistance arises inside, and then we think resistance is wrong, right? So then what happens? We resist the resistance. And then, oh, I'm noticing resistance, then we resist the resistance of the resistance, and it comes, and that's when what you're talking about actually is, it becomes more and more repressed and suppressed, and then it explodes, on somebody, or nothing to do with anything, probably. So, when you can notice the resistance and just be with it and not resist it, then that way of the awareness, the present moment awareness is itself what brings transformation. So you notice the resistance and you just become aware of it and you bring unconditional love to it, and then it's allowed to move.
Also, I think to one of the things that I would like to see change in my life is when somebody else is angry towards me, to be able to give them that space to not automatically respond in pain and anger, to understand what they are bringing. It's like I want to have that respect when I'm angry, but also to flip it, and when somebody is angry with me, or you're in an experience, like you come across an angry driver or somebody who's yelling at their kid or whatever it is, that maybe, I'm not saying you need to interject yourself into every angry situation, but if it's something that's in your path that you're obviously supposed to be part of, to give that person that same benefit of the doubt, that that you understand what they're going through and not take it so personally or judgmentally or anything like that. I think if we all gave each other that respect or understanding, that it can help bring it to the shore, and as opposed to a reaction that we're